Hey friends, this podcast is one that is very eagerly anticipated. This podcast is gonna be very difficult for me to do. I'm gonna answer one question. It's a question I get asked more often than I can count. It's why didn't I go to college? Why did I give up on college? Why didn't I finish college? Why don't you go to college now? You can get a degree in anything. So we're going to answer the hardest question of my life. And hopefully who is ever watching this or listening to it on YouTube or whatever podcast platform it is can learn from one of the biggest pitfalls I stumbled into. Hello. My name is Nunez, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of the Advocacy Life podcast and blog. This, of course, is the podcast. Disability and death are the only two certainties in life. There is a misconception in our world that disability will not affect everyone, when the fact is it's the opposite. It affects all of us. So let's bridge those gaps together in a fun, conversational style. Thanks for your time, and hope you enjoy the episode. The short answer is that it's a long answer. That's why I'm going to do a whole podcast episode on it. So, as some of you know, when you have a disability, you have an IEP, which is an individual education plan. You're entitled to stay until you're 21. I went to a public high school. I had more than enough credits to graduate. I was a solid A-B student. I was verbal, thank God. I had social skills that I developed, thank God. So I had all the instruction and intent to go to college. But yeah, I didn't. Let me try to explain. And this is just my experience. So, take away what you can from this. And if you can relate, you can relate. If you can't, you can't. But I don't know any other way to do this. So, one of the biggest issues that has the disability community is that when we turn 18 or 21, we're supposed to magically have everything figured out. No 18-year-old or 21-year-old has everything figured out. Even if they're quote-unquote normal or don't identify with the disability. So, when I turned 18, it was very daunting. I need to give you guys the circumstances here. I saw my mother about every weekend or every other weekend. My dad was our primary caregiver. Yes, we had staff come in and out throughout the week. But my dad was the primary caregiver. We knew we were going to move to a new house at some point when I turned 18. We had lived in a condo complex townhouse. What was supposed to be a 5-year housing plan turned to a 15-year housing situation where we literally outgrew the house. Because we weren't supposed to be in there more than 5 years. So we literally outgrew it. There was a lot of clutter. My brother and I we stayed in our room the majority of the day because there was no room to move. Because it was a small house. So, that was it. Now, because I lived 2 minutes from the high school. You would think that I would have been at every single extracurricular activity that I could have thought of. However, again, disability was disability, and our accessible vehicle was at the time a low roof van. We needed to get a high roof van. My dad had bought a van 3 years prior. We were waiting on the state to help us get a new lift put in the van. Because, of course, an accessible lift cost a ton of money that we didn't have. For some reason, there was an issue with the paperwork, and plus it was 2006, 2007. It took forever. So what should have taken a 6-month process that began in 2003 turned into a Odyssey, where by the time it was time for me to graduate, I still didn't have an accessible vehicle. Either a paid caregiver or some family or some friend would literally have to hoist me up into a regular car seat. At the time, I was very, very overweight. So it was an ordeal to physically lift me into a vehicle. You're lifting a full-grown boy with hormones and an overactive thyroid at the time into these vehicles, where it's very taxing, it's very exhausting. Plus, as you know, there were 2 of me, but what I mean by that is I have a twin brother who also has disabilities like mine. So my dad or my mother or a family friend would have to help both of us, because of course we both had different interests or different needs. So you had to always hey, who can take me there? Who can take me where? So I missed out on a lot of after school activities. I remember I always wanted to do the debate club, or I wanted to do Model UN. And because I knew what the situation was, I couldn't commit to having any kind of after school thing. Because, of course, growing up, you feel like a burden. I didn't know what the burden complex was. Burden complex is a real thing. Burden complex is when you feel like a burden to your family. When you feel like you're not worth anything. I wouldn't say I was depressed in a clinical sense, but I really, really thought about every choice I made. Because I didn't want to bother people. So I was very much suffering from the burden complex. So I specifically chose what events I attended, what events I didn't attend. I basically saved it for the big stuff. During the school day, the school bus would of course take me to school. But because I didn't have an accessible vehicle, I had to use an portable wheelchair that was motorized. There was basically a lawn chair on wheels. And it wasn't comfortable. It was very old because I used it every single time I had to go somewhere, vacation or after school activity, or even the doctor's office. Because I couldn't use my regular 300-pound wheelchair because I didn't have a vehicle. So by the time my senior year, my junior year came around, when you're starting to figure stuff out, because I missed a lot of those social and after school activities like debate club, like film club, like any other extracurricular activity. I didn't really have a firm grasp as to what I was into. I knew I liked politics. I knew I wanted to do something to help people. I knew I was funny. But that's all I knew. So, liking politics, helping people, and being funny is not necessarily their ingredients for a future, but I didn't know how to put them together. So there what I did was I was able to convince my school to give me one more year where I could stay and do life skills and do intro to business and do a whole bunch of electives that the school had offered for AP courses. That was my gap year. I was supposed to use that to figure stuff out. Because it was still the same environment, even though I had different classes, because it was still the same environment with the same people in the same school, I didn't really grow the way I wanted to grow. I couldn't figure out what I had to figure out because I was still in the same spot, just dressing it up differently. So I was again halfway through the year, very not sad, but just down on life because I couldn't figure out what my next step was, what I wanted to do, because I was doing the same thing I was before, just in different classrooms. So when it came time for me to leave at 19, we still didn't have a vehicle. I remember this vividly. So my college options were either a tech school, which was around the corner, or a county college. There were accessible schools that was 6 hours away. My best friend went to that college. He had the best experience of his life. But because I had never left the house, moving 6 hours away was the scariest thing I could ever imagine. Now, yes, I'll do it in a heartbeat. Let's go. But 6 hours away, when I had never gone more than 10 minutes outside of my house, because I lived behind the high school. Like, I had the mall and the high school both within, in my case, rolling distance from my house. So, I never left more than like a 10-minute radius, which was perfect for my dad or a caregiver because they could just drop me off at the mall or drop me off at the, school. So it was perfect. So that was my little bubble, and I got used to being in that little bubble. And one of the biggest issues our community has is we don't like to burst our bubbles. So my best friend, he was a year behind me. We were friends by consequence. Yes, we are best friends. Love you, David. But part of the reason we were best friends is because we were the only two kids in wheelchairs that attended high school in mainstream classes, and he was a year behind me. So he went off to college because he was the only disabled kid in his family, so he had tons of money saved up and a loving and supporting family, and they just did whatever they had to do to get him to go. My family was very supportive, very kind, wonderful. I'll die for my mom, I'll die for my dad. But we just didn't have either the resources or the costs or to do it. Especially because you're basically told all these things when you're on SSI that kind of just put the fear of God in you. So I went to a local tech school. I had the best 6 months of my life. I remember I went in for medical office administration. I didn't love it. It was not my favorite career. But I figured it could at least help me figure stuff out. And it was something different. It was challenging. I remember my first test ever was medical terminology. I was always very good with computers. And I was able to do my entire test on a computer. And I got a B. I was my first B. It was an 87. Like I said, there was this looming cloud that we knew we had to move from one part of the state to the other. Well, the cloud rained, and we had to move. And it was not fun because I had just got my feet under me. 6 months, I had all my classes were at night. It was watch a movie or some dumb TV show, eat some breakfast, and just study till it was time to go to class. The classes would be right before dinner, so my dad or my caregiver would drop me off, again using the vehicle without the lift in it, in the same rickety old portable wheelchair that I had always used. Right around the corner from my house. So my dad would drop me off, go cook dinner for the family. And then when I got home from class, I would eat dinner and have like the best day ever. My first semester I had a 3.7 GPA. If you are just listening to this on a podcast platform, I'm smiling. That first report card was so great. All A's and all A's and 1B. So we moved. When you move, it's a pain in the butt anyway. When you move with the disability, you're adding like 1,000 other things to it. So by the time we were all set up in the house, because without getting into too much family drama, we moved in a haste. And by the time we were all, set up, we were stable. A year had gone by. I went to another local county college. I went to 3 of them. 3 different colleges. And my credits wouldn't transfer. And they had said, you have to start all the way over. And I said, okay. So I did their entrance exam. And their exam was really awkward. It was really weird. I didn't pass any of them. Whatever their standardized testing is down here in the southern part of New Jersey was just very peculiar and it never fit. Again, I took it 3 times. I just couldn't enter my head or whatever. Next thing you know, so 3 times, 3 different colleges, nothing worked. The closest I ever got was they wanted me to take 27 credits of remedial courses before I get to study what I wanted to study. And if you're doing quick math in your head, 27 credits is roughly a year and a half before I even study what I wanted to study. And it wouldn't count towards my major. So, and again, when you're hearing this 3 times, you get very, very defeated. Just defeat. I was done. And DVR is the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. But the counselor I was given, I don't know if she was brand new or whatever, but she had nothing for me. So the only thing that I could find, that she found, was that the local Goodwill was offering a certification in Microsoft Office. And I took that course. And again, I had fun. I found it challenging because I was the smartest person in there. Because I had grown up around computers my whole entire life. So when you go to Goodwill, I don't know if you know this, if Goodwill offers class, anybody can take it. So I was in there with a bunch of people who had drug issues and drug abuse issues and things of that nature. So I was by far the smartest kid in the class, and I spent, 6 months there. I remember all I had to do was take the test. Once again, life happened, and I couldn't take the exam because the place where they were giving the exam, my caregiver at the time, even though my dad could take me to the exam place, my caregiver, who was going to be my scribe for the test, was not willing to go so I could get the exam done, so I couldn't have anybody to write my exam for me. Again, I know there's tons of programs now, and things are different now, but this is 2008. So, things were not as available as they were now. Workability was just introduced in New Jersey like a few years earlier. Workability was still new. Nobody knew really what it was or how it worked for sure. So I didn't get my Microsoft certification. I passed all the classes. I just never took the actual final test. Then advocacy fell in my lap. There's no other way to say it. I did partners in policy making, like I've said many times before, and it snowballed. So, why don't I go to college? Why don't I finish? Why I could do anything I want now? There's so many more options. The short answer is, and this may be a cop-out or not a cop-out, I don't know, but I'm at a place in my life now where I'm happy. People count on me. I'm the resource people call when they have an advocacy question. I'm the guy you call. Would I like to go to college? Yes. Would I have to sacrifice some opportunities that I have in front of me now to go to college? Yes. So, well, going to college, because now we have college online, obviously, is more accessible than ever. Honestly, right now, I'm too busy. I'm on 1,000 different boards. I serve on both various state and national committees. Yes. Is it challenging? Yes. Is it always fun? No. Is it days that are very stressful? Yeah. Yes, it was cool to go to the State Union. Yes, it was cool to go to the White House twice. Best days of my life. by far. Let's do it again. But if I had gone to college, I wouldn't have the opportunities in front of me. So, not going to college, in my particular case, was a blessing in disguise that I didn't recognize. It took me 20 years to recognize that not going to college, in my case, was a blessing. Will I seek out college at one point? I like to. I'm not afraid of going to college now. I think I would learn better in a classroom setting. Right now, as of 2026, well, April for me, I'm sure this will be out by June. By June 2026, I have other opportunities that are ahead of me. I'm planning a conference for TASH, which is a evidence-based advocacy organization that specifically advocates for, or not specifically, because they advocate for other folks, or all folks with disabilities, but they have a particular focus on those with more significant needs. So that's exciting. I have an opportunity to also start another national advocacy board with the National Association of Councils on Developmental Disabilities. So in 20 years, you might hear of an advocacy group that'll be the largest consulting firm for self-advocates to learn and grow. And if everything goes the way I'm planning it, in some point down the future, that'll be me. I'm gonna say I help us start that. That's a seed I'm planting. And if I go to college now, I'll lose the opportunity to start that. I said in a few podcasts ago, our population is at a precipice where we can go backwards, we can go forwards. And someone like me, not that I'm the best, not that I'm the worst, has to be that voice in that room, has to be the loudmouth, has to be the person that they go to, has to be the person that the legislators speak to when it comes to advocacy stuff.